Ladies and gentlemen, today is January 14th, 2013. And this is the KNKL Emma Stream, day 26. And we are going to be having a good time here, gathering in our nice warm dojo, because outside it is actually absolutely freezing today. I went bike riding today, and that was tons of fun. In fact, it's still a little bit cold in here, so I'm going to go ahead and put this back on. Put my hoodie back on. But I went biking to the local grocery store to go pick up some, as you may guess, groceries. And I made the fatal mistake of not getting any gloves. And my hands were freezing nonetheless. So when I got to the grocery store, I saw that they had these gloves on sale, right? But they came with a special caveat. They have little hearts on them. And they're so cute and so precious. So I was riding my bike, right? And if I flip somebody off or whatever, it'd be cute because they'd be like, "Oh, he loves me." So it wouldn't even work. So I couldn't even flip people off if they made fun of me. Not that I would really do that. I don't believe in giving obscene, rude gestures to people. So that was what happened probably about an hour ago, and then 20 minutes ago, I commenced making Spanish rice for myself for dinner. And it was absolutely delicious. Delicious. And I had to pretty much jam that down my throat as quickly as possible. So let's go ahead and get started on what we're going to be working on today. And that is the Emma bio. I call it Bio Emma because it's going to be on the character bio page. And we're just going to be coloring this. And it is basically a redo of one of the very old early concepts of Emma here. And we're just doing it in the new style. And for those of you who are not familiar with the new schedule of things, we're actually going to be doing Tutorial Tuesday tomorrow, what was previously known as the KNKL show, tomorrow. So we're going to be going into an awesome tutorial. And the exact subject matter, I'm not sure yet. I've got a couple choices, and I will be sure to pick one of those. And it will be good. So before we jump into this, I promised that I would go through the Emma Lovely Lane because we got some awesome new submissions. And at the end of the stream, let's see, how can I do this? At the end of the stream, I want to show you guys really quickly what I've been working on for SCION. And it is the actual video that I'm going to be submitting to them because I am entering a contest to hopefully win a new car, aka the Emma Mobile, and 10,000 bucks. Hey, it's sweet. All I got to do is submit the idea for my business. They'll be like, "Yes, we like that." Or they won't say anything, they won't contact me, but they'll secretly take my idea and then use it for their own dirty deeds and, yeah, not give me anything. But it's a chance I'm willing to take to get the Emma Mobile. So that is the Emma Lovely Lane. Let us go ahead and jump right into the artwork, shall we? So, I trust that you guys had a great weekend. I am thankful that you guys understood about the whole thing, about the KNKL show, sort of being moved to Tuesdays now. Because now that we have a daily show, it's like, hey, that is pretty cool. And I am slowly becoming aware that the old way of doing things might not be working as well anymore because these days, the weekends, most of the time have to be working on the comics still. So yeah, things need to get moved around, and having to do the KNKL show is one more thing that just isn't gonna contribute. It's not gonna help me out, knowing that I have to do that. And it's just one more thing I gotta work into my schedule. So thank you guys for understanding that. And this allows me to more consistently work it into my schedule, and we can have some awesome tutorials. And we can do it live too, which is really awesome. So if you guys show up and watch it live, you can ask questions and I can answer them right there in front of you. And then you can benefit everybody on YouTube that will watch it later. And they'll be like, "Thank you, Mr. Stream Viewer, for asking that question." And then you can feel all good inside and be like, "Yes, that was me. That was me." Oh, Mr. or Mrs. Stream Viewer, whoever you are. So let's go ahead and begin shading in Emma. Emma. Okay. So this ain't too hard. In fact, what I'm going to do really quickly is I'm just going to open part 2 here. I'm going to open page 4. I think it's page 4. Page 4 has a nice color palette for her skin and her hair. So I'm going to go ahead and pull that up for reference. Looks like the stream is doing quite well. No frames dropped. That is very nice. Very nice. Waricon, follower number 100. Yes. I wish I had like a birthday hat to give you. I had like a big 100 on it that like wheeled around on a spring. If I did, I would. I'll find one and I'll mail it to you. How about that? Okay. No, but thank you guys. Thank you so much for following and showing up and watching the stream. It really, really means a lot. It's cool to see all the friendly and beautiful new faces every week. And I hope that you guys have been enjoying the comic thus far. And I will be having an announcement as to when issue 2 is coming out very soon. Right now, currently what I'm working on is... Did I just close that? No, I didn't. Currently what I'm working on right now is some extra content that's going to be being released with the digital version, the digital sale version of issue 1. Right? Because we got to make money to pay for my Spanish rice and my burritos and my peaches and cottage cheese. Right? Need to be able to eat, especially now that I am no longer employed with League de Leyendos. So, but none of that's a bad thing. No, it's not a bad thing. It's a good thing. Because I am following my dream, right? One way or another. One way or another. I will figure out a way to make this work. I will seek it out, because that is what I have done up till this point, and hey, it's working out pretty good so far. So we're just going to keep on chugging. We're going to chug until we cannot chug anymore. I'm going to start with like a... By the way, sorry, I apologize in advance for like my sniffly nose. That's what happens when you're biking outside. And I swear, I think it was like 40 degrees out there. And I know for some of you that might not be that cold, but for California, it is. The summers, they spoil us here. And by the time the winter rolls around, our skin is just like so thin. It's paper thin. And the cold just goes right through it. So it's getting to the point where it is chilly. Chilly. Very chilly. Okay. You know, I like that old skin color better. I'm just gonna go with my gut and color this the way that I want, because this is Emma. This is a little bit more vibrant colored Emma, whereas this is like kind of more desaturated in the barn Emma down here. Right? So this is new Emma. In fact, I need to reference... Let's reference this old one. And she's like really pale in this. She's definitely been tanned up since then. Got a little bit more skin tone going on, and I like that. I like that. Okay, so let's go ahead and just grab this for reference. The hair. And let's make it a little bit more saturated. Now this is interesting. Look at the color that I'm working with here. Right? Look at that. It's like actually kind of like a dark pink. But you throw that onto here, and it's the beginning of what will be blonde. Just wait. Just wait until I finish. Let me finish. All right, let's go ahead and grab our dress color. It's that nice deep maroon. Ooh, that's nice. Ooh, nice. That might be a little too maroony. Oh! There we go. Lovely. The bandage. The bandage will be a little bit of like a dark brown here. Good. What are you guys talking about over here? by story. I don't have time to read all of your things. I'm starting to realize the chat is like taking off on its own. I'm gonna have to start hiring moderators. Oh, what a lovely day that will be. Need to keep the chat in check. Looks good. All the people saying terrible things about my mother. Those people need to be silenced. Taken out. I'm just kidding. Nobody's been saying terrible things about my mother. And even if they did, probably wouldn't care. Because I have the power to ban. And I don't really look over at the chat that much anyway. Until the end where the question catapults come in. The only time I will be consistently looking at the chat is during Tutorial Tuesday tomorrow, right? Tutorial Tuesday tomorrow is when I'll be looking at the chat more. But for now, in order to keep the content fresh and not boring, hopefully, I am going to go ahead and not look. Now, why is this doing that? Why is that happening? Oh, because I wanted that. That's why. Okay. That's why. Oh. Okay. Let's go ahead and color in her blue pin there. Ja blue pin. Super excited to show you guys the SCION video at the end here. Should be pretty sweet. Pretty sweet. Good. That's looking good. It's looking very good. The bandage could stand to be a little less. What do I want? A little bit more like that. Yeah. Yeah. Cool. Cool. And the eyes need to be a little bit more blue. Good. Okay. That looks good to me. That looks really good. Okay, let's continue. Continue. Let's go ahead and mask out this blade here. By the way, I'm going to show you guys a really cool trick that I learned right here. You can mask this stuff out really quickly, right? By lasso it first, and then pick your color that you're going to throw down on the mask, right? However, before you actually fill it, here, let me show you what happens, why I don't like doing it this way. There's all these little imperfections in it, like when you zoom out to this point. I don't know if you guys can see that, but there's like a little like gray line in there, and it drives me crazy when I'm working. So in order to avoid that, all I do is when I'm wanding everything, I'll right-click it and then hit Refine Edge, right? Then I hit Contract Expand and I set that to 100%, right? Make sure you can see this. And then Smooth, I don't know, it's at 18, but I don't think you need to really have much on there. And then that's it. You just expand the selection a little bit. And then when you fill it, once you fill it, you should be able to zoom out and it won't have those gray lines anymore. Not as much. Not as much. Okay, I didn't say it would be perfect. I said not as much. Yeah, alright. It's good. It's good. I'm going to leave it. I'm going to leave it. Leave it. Okay, let's go ahead and make our handle. Good. Refine that edge. And expand it. And fill it. Oh. Too much. Too much. Hey. Cool. Alright, so that's looking pretty good. Now, my original plan for this was I want to have her facing a certain way and then have like the text of the bio like to her left. So it'd be like Emma, blah 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 blah. Little girl versus the undead. So her bio would be like here. Maybe it could be like her actually talking about herself. That would be kind of cool. That was an idea that I had where it's like almost like a journal. Or maybe it would be like the bio and then it's like Emma's journal and then you click it and then it would be like a little video or something that it would like scroll down and maybe we could get a voice actor to do Emma's voice. That would be pretty sweet. That would make me oh so happy. Maybe a little too happy. And we know what happens when I get too happy. Anyways, let's continue with our shading here. Let's go ahead and just get rid of that. Let's begin our soft shading and working with subtleties because that is our favorite thing to do as artists, right? Right? Right. Okay, so I'm just going to change the cropping of this picture a little bit because it's bothering me. And let's go ahead and get in here and start laying in our colors. Okay, so the first thing we got to think about is where our light source is coming from, right? Because we want to make sure we're consistent with all of our lighting. So I want to make the light source coming from the top right. Top right will be our light. And then also what we need to consider is what color is the light. I'm going to go ahead and make it just like kind of like a yellowish white, you know? Simple yellowish white. And then because the light is going to be coming from this direction, you got to make sure that the skin, I'm going to make the skin a little bit darker and a little bit more red. That way when we add the lights to it, it'll look a lot more natural. So let's go ahead and darken the skin to that point there. Good. Okay, so that looks a little weird, right? But watch. As we add the lights, it should take care of that. But first we're going to start with the hair. Okay? Let's start with the hair. Alright, so let's go ahead and grab our soft brush and we're just going to start experimenting with our colors because we were working in a simplified style and therefore not everything has to be perfect. So let's go ahead and just experiment a little bit. Let's see what happens if we take this color and throw it on there. Hey, that looks good. I like that. Transitions between kind of a yellow and then it goes to like a darker red. So when hue shifts happen between your light and your shadows, I feel like it just adds an element of, I don't know, it feels more believable as opposed to, hey, let's take this color and then the shadows are this color. It always looks like kind of ugly, you know? It's like, ugh. You know, but if you take the yellow hue and then push it more red and purple, it'll most of the time always look nice. And then the other thing you want to think about is what is our atmosphere color, right? So let's go ahead and make our atmosphere kind of like let's make it gray. Let's make the atmosphere gray. And then let's push all the shadows kind of like bluish gray. In fact, I'll make this background a little more blue-gray. Right now. Right now. Today has been a little bit of a lazy day, and I do apologize for my yawning. This is good. This is good. You guys are asking and answering each other's questions in the chat. This is why I love you guys, because you're awesome like that. You're awesome and you help each other out. That is what life is about. Okay, let's go ahead and push this even further to blonde. because I want to get like almost white. I want to get like almost a white color for her blondness on her hair, just for the edge. In fact, that might be a little bit too saturated. Let's push it up more like this. Yeah, there we go. And see, what you're doing is you're allowing the computer to make the calculations and the gradients for you, right? You're going from this really desaturated light yellow to a more saturated orange in here, and then that goes to like the more reddish shadow, right? And when you put all those together, it rounds your character out, and I don't know how to explain it, but it's just like let the computer do the work for you. If you let the computer do the work for you, it will save you a ton of time. And here's another thing that I do. At the end, when I'm done with all the lights, I'll go back into the shadows and I'll take a little bit of the ambient color, which is this blue-gray. I'll introduce a little bit of that into there, and then I'll go through and I'll just, on the edges of those shadows, I'll put a little bit of gray in there. Alright? See what that does? It allows your character to exist a little bit easier in your environment. Feels a lot more, I don't know, realistic, kind of, but it's like a cartoon, so I don't know how to explain it. It just looks pleasing to the eye because your eye is used to seeing that interaction with objects in the real world. So let's go on to the skin, okay? Let's go into the skin and talk about the subtleties. Let's talk about the subtleties and the other things of the skin. So in the cheek areas, I always like to put a little bit of blush because it's not only does it make her look kind of cute, but you know that's the way that real faces work, right? You have a condensed amounts of blood in your cheeks, nose, lips, shoulders, and your knees. So I usually like to go through and put a little bit of redness on those areas, right? And they're just light. Oh, and at the tips of your fingers too. And it will make for a nice, rounded out looking character in terms of like skin tones. Right? And then this is going to be a really good example. And I've done this before. Right? This is actually turning kind of into a tutorial in general, but I mean, that's the way it goes. I like it. Okay, so a cool thing about the skin, and I'll show you guys here. The way the skin works, and one of my favorite things about the skin, is it kind of has a similar reaction to light the way that the hair does, right? And this is called subsurface scattering. This is where the light enters, bounces around in all the little blood cells, and kind of refracts back out. And it kind of creates a glow between the transition between light and shadow. So basically, all you have to do is take, you have your desaturated shadow here, right? And as you go to the light, you will experience a little bit of like a red glow. So check this color out. See that color right there? We're going to throw that in like that, right? And that's a good start. It's actually a very good start. And then all that happens here from that red glow is you are going to push further up towards the yellows, and you're going to desaturate very, very quickly. And watch what happens. See? You see what that does right there? That, ladies and gentlemen, is one of the quickest ways that you can simulate skin, the transference of skin, like that. You take your hot, desaturated, light color of the skin, right? Throw it in like that. And then the transition between the light and the shadow, there will be a saturated reddish change, right? And that is to simulate the light inside of the skin bouncing around and refracting out. It creates that tiny little thing that we call subsurface scattering. And that makes you look like you know what you're doing, and that is one of the most important things in the artist arsenal. Looking like you know what you're doing. One of my favorite things to do. Oh, my bad. Looking like you know what you're doing when you really don't, really. Like, wow, Subsurface scattering. Yeah. I meant to, yeah, that was me. Oh yeah. I know totally. I totally know what I'm doing. And then again, look, taking that gray, introducing it a little bit into the edges of the skin, because surprisingly, along the edges of the skin is very, very refractive of the things around it. So it helps to round your character out. Round your characters. Round your characters out. And I'll do the same thing here, along this. Do you see what I'm doing? Oh. Do you see what I'm doing here? I'm creating the illusion of skin just by realizing those couple of principles. The principle of subsurface scattering and then the ambient light that comes into the shadows. Okay? That's all there is to it. And then say you want to work on the knees, like this is what happens. Every now and then you'll have like a couple body parts that overlap each other, right? So say this arm is overlapping this knee, so that gradient went into the knee. So what I'll do is I'll just go in here, and this is kind of, you could either mask this off separately to begin with, or you can just go in and lasso it, and you can hit Control H to hide it, and be like, okay, I know that I'm working with the knee, right? When you hit Control H, it hides it, but it doesn't take it away, right? So I could take like this bright yellow, I could color this whole knee bright yellow, but it won't go to the arm, right? But it doesn't have like the annoying little, they call it marching ants, which I think is kind of cute. You don't have the marching ants in your way. So you can freely go about your business and draw in your shadows, right? So let's go ahead and throw in, I don't think there's going to be much light hitting that knee. It's probably going to be more ambience. So I'm going to go ahead and do that instead. Whoa, it's a little, it's a little much. A little much, okay? A little much. Same thing over here. Let's go ahead and lasso this. And this side will have subsurface scattering on it because the light is going to be hitting the other end of that. So let's go ahead and grab this orange that we were using earlier. Throw that in right there. Let's grab that bright yellow. Bam! Look at that, ladies and gentlemen. Bet you didn't know I could do that. Alright. That's enough maniacal laughter for one day, wouldn't you say? I'm going to go ahead and push the cheeks a little bit more saturated. A little bit more saturated on those cheeks. Yeah, there we go. I'm going to go ahead and throw in a little bit more shadow in here. Shadows, I like to go a little bit more darker and desaturate them, especially if you have like a grayish background. It's going to look nice if you desaturate and darken your shadows like that. See, like where the hair goes over the face? It's going to create a nice little bounce there. And art is balance in all things, just as your karate teacher would teach you as well. Alrighty then. So let's go ahead. What are you guys talking about here? What are you guys talking about? And yes, for those of you looking for more high quality tutorials, a lot of people are suggesting Control Paint. They do an amazing job of talking about layouts and all that stuff. So if you guys watch the show, that's great, but I definitely also would recommend you go check out their stuff. Some of it is pretty advanced as well, though. So I try to pertain to kind of like in the middle of like the middle of intermediate and advanced, right? It's like there's not a lot of stuff in between there. It's like, where the heck are all these tutorials about, you know, how to mimic subsurface scattering in skin and, you know, like ambient occlusion, you know. Basically, that's the fancy word for what's happening with the gray interacting with the shadows. Oh no, that's not ambient occlusion. Ambient occlusion is okay, I'll show you what ambient occlusion is. Ambient occlusion is when two objects are close to one another, and it creates a shadow. That's basically it. So where this arm is overlapping that knee, we could create a shadow there. Whoop. Also, rule of thumb, I like to try to keep, like, if you throw a shadow in there and it's too gray, then just make it more red, especially if it's on the skin. You'll be surprised at what it can do for you. So basically, ambient occlusion is what's happening when that arm gets close to that leg. It occludes some of the light that is kind of coming from the ambience around it. That's the best way that I can describe it. So it basically just creates a shadow. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is your tutorial for the day. The crappy explanation of ambient occlusion. Even I don't know exactly what it is. But I do know how to fake some things. I know how to fake a few good principles. Let's see. And I love working, like when you're starting your color palette, I cannot emphasize enough how much time it saves you to use the soft brush, right? Because I used to work like this. I used to grab like my hard like edge round brush, and I used to be like, okay, I want this color here. Like, hang on. I want this color here, and I want this color here. And basically, I just grab that color. I was like, okay, let's like blend these, you know, like going like that. But then it gives you like this nasty, you know, like, you know, it's all about what happens between those gradients, you know. If it saturates, then it's simulating a little bit of subsurface stuff happening in there. And most of the time, I like to do a little bit of that, actually. I like to do a little bit of saturation between the shadow and the highlight. Just ends up looking really nice. Creates a nice little effect there. But that's not always the way that works. That's not always the way that you have to do it. You know, I would encourage you guys to, you know, play around with a few things, but never be afraid to just try some crazy, wacky things. You know. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and work with these legs down here specifically. So there's a lot of shadow happening here. There's a lot of shadow happening with these legs. So let's go ahead and throw those in. I'm going to throw a little bit of shine there. Good. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this ambient color that we know is interacting with the skin here. I'm going to throw it on these legs. Just a little bit on the edges there. And what that does is it rounds the figure, or it rounds our subject. All right? Makes it look nice. There we go. And you can always soften it. And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. See? Check it out. And also another thing that I like to do is to simulate the, okay, what's this called? Simulate the, when you wrap something around your skin, you know how it kind of like bulges out from outside of it? Like if you wrap a rubber band around your arm, the skin kind of like pinches and then it kind of puffs out on the edges, right? So the way that you can show that that is happening is you can add some light to the edge, like this. Watch what I do here. That is not going to work. Quiet. You be quiet. Oh. Sorry about that. I think I just hung up on that person. Oh well, they'll call back. Alright, so as I was saying here, we're going to go ahead and fix this up here. And that like light on the edge there, oh,
I was about to be scared out of my mind.
I literally just unhooked that phone from the wall, but I didn't. I unhooked the phone from the thing, not the telephone cord. So, and it kept ringing. I was about to crap my pants. That would not have been a good thing. That would mean the place is haunted, and I would have begun to run away. So let's go ahead and continue here. So basically all I'm doing is I'm adding a little bit of light to the underside of this. And what that's showing us is that the skin is kind of like puffing up around it. And it's helping to, I mean, this works better in like when you're doing like a realistic portrait. But we're all about subtleties here on the KNKL show. Speaking of subtlety, I want some more shadow there. More darkness. Here and here. Because actually there would not be that much light getting to these legs. Because her skirt's covering it, and also her arm's covering it. So these legs are going to be much, much darker. More like that. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, and I'll have to explain that skin fold thing another time. Because it might be better to explain that on a more realistic figure. I love when people call it figures. More realistic figure. Alright, so next up we're going to go ahead and eliminate some of the ambient light that's happening on this shoulder because that should not be there. So let's go ahead and darken that up a little bit. Oh, not too much, just a little. Good. Good, 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 very good. Very good. And then another thing that I really like to do is called spotlighting. Spotlighting is what happens when like light passes through something and then it like lands on something else. So an example would be, let me go ahead and illustrate this. So the light here, let's say it's like passing and it's hitting this shoulder, right? It's hitting all of this shoulder. But let's say it continued past here and it just barely hit the edge of this boot, you know? When you start employing things like that, like little tiny things, in fact, it would only be hitting the boot in this area, right? Because think about the light. It's traveling in a perfect straight line, right? So it's hitting here, but not below that point, right? So it's hitting here and here. Probably not on this boot because that's behind, right? So let's go ahead and just do a few calculations here. So we know the light's supposed to be hitting here. The light, oh, and here's the other thing. If the light hits here, then it's going to reflect back here, and it's going to affect the underside of her face. This is where things start to get a little tricky. But let's concentrate on one thing at a time. So we've got the light going here. It hits the boot. And let's see, is there any other places where this would happen? Any other big places? Nope, probably not. Unless it goes way down here. No, it wouldn't hit those. Wouldn't hit her hand. So with that in mind, let's go ahead and go back to our boots. And let's throw that in. Let's see what happens when we throw in that extra light. That extra light. Let's darken those boots so they're nice and in shadow. And let's throw in this light. Okay, so we know it's going to be hitting right there and there. Does that look good or does that look lame? That is the question. Well, it's looking lame because... Oh, wait. No, it's working. Okay, good. It's looking lame. I thought it was looking lame because it was like blending up with the skin, but it wasn't. So, I know what I'm doing. All right, let's go ahead and throw in like a little bit lighter color there. All right. Let's just see what this does. Oh, a little too much. Nope, it needs to be just those little tiny pieces there. Those little tiny pieces. All right. So with that happening, let's go back to the skin now. And we have to make sure that the skin is reacting accordingly with this. It's probably going to do something like that. All right, see that little thing that I did right there? This is also going to reflect up here and cause the shadows to do a little bit of that. Pay attention. That's where things get interesting. At least I think they'll be getting interesting. And here's the thing. Like if you try something and it doesn't look good, then erase it, you know? Sometimes the best thing to do is just experiment and see what happens. And don't be afraid to, you know, sometimes if you overcomplicate things as well, sometimes it can mess with your painting. So oftentimes I'll find myself running into this trap when I'm coloring the comic, you know? Sometimes we're like, okay, well, the original idea for this was supposed to be, you know, simple coloring, right? You know, I'm putting a little bit more time into this because this is going to be the bio page, right? So I'm going to be a little bit more picky. But for the comic, I probably would never shade it like this. You know, this is a little bit more realistic, you know, things happening here. So let's go ahead and head back to the boots. I think they're feeling a little bit too saturated. So let's go ahead and desaturate these a little bit. That's better. And for the final thing here, let's go ahead and select the back boot. This boot back here. And let's make it a little bit like more affected by. Let's make it a little bit more affected by the atmosphere. Create a layer over top and go ahead and throw in that atmosphere. There we go. And let's go ahead and head back to these boots. And let's throw in a little bit of atmosphere here. Good? All right. And also I'm going to put a little bit of ambient stuff happening on the other side of the boot. All right. Hope you guys are noticing what this is doing to our figure here. In fact, another thing that I want to see is because the light is on the boot, I think it might look good to throw a little bit on the knee as well. I think that might help show a little bit more of what's happening there. So let's go ahead and try that. Let's put a little bit of this on the knee. Does that look right? I don't know. I'm not buying it. I'm not buying it. I like a little bit of, I like that little red-ish thing there. That's good. But the rest of it, no, not buying it. Cool. And let's go ahead and flip. Because oftentimes if you flip your canvas, you can see it with fresh eyes, and not only works for drawings, but it works for color too. Because you can see all of the interactions with the colors that are happening, and you can pick out little things that look kind of weird to you. That's pretty good. I'm going to go ahead and color these like back limbs a little bit more grayish so they blend in a little bit more. That's good. Shading this. Shading the underside of this arm to show that it's moving, in a different direction. To communicate form, it really helps to change the color. I kind of do the same thing with like knuckles on a finger and things like that. But do it strategically. If that makes sense. What time are we at? 7:49. Sweet. So we'll be opening up the floodgates of the question catapults in about 5 minutes. So please ready your questions. And we'll go ahead and round off and finish episode 26 of the KNKL Daily. Feels awesome to be saying that. Oh, and I have to show you guys the SCION Motivate video. And you guys need to tell me what you think about that. So we'll go ahead and show that in about 3 minutes. We'll run through the video, and then I want to hear what you guys say about it in the comments section. Cool. Just to make sure it'll work, let me pull it up. Wonder if it'll actually show. Uh-oh.
Hello, SCION.
Okay, good. You saved your ears. Whew. That was close. That was close. Alright. So we'll save that just a moment from now. And this should be going up on YouTube within the next few days. Hopefully. And yeah, if you guys went on to Facebook and said I support Emma, or you submitted some amazing artwork for the contest and it was in by the deadline, it is in the video. So you guys can hopefully enjoy seeing that as soon as that comes out. Okay, really quickly I'm just going to do a quick color pass on the dress. See how I'm not only changing the color, but I'm changing the hue as well for the shadow. Desaturated, and I pushed it more towards purple. I love what that does. See, it just looks so, I don't know, like look at it. See, it goes from that, and then once you put that on, it's like, whoa, looks so much more believable. Let's push the light more towards red. There you go. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. That's the way you do it. That's the ticket. That's the ticket. So I love to kind of balance, if you're doing like a saturated color, like a saturated local color, I always love to balance it with like a nice desaturated shadow. And kind of rule of thumb, I like to make the lights a little bit more yellowy. I mean, most of the time you're dealing with yellow light. If you're dealing with red light, then obviously you don't want the local colors to go more yellow, but you know what I mean? Like most of the time you're going to be dealing with sunlight, which is yellow. And yes, the opposite of yellow is purple, so your shadow should be desaturated and purple. And that makes it tons of fun. I remember the first time my teacher told me, it's like, your shadows need to be purple. And I was like, shadows aren't purple, they're gray. Crazy art teacher. But now I understand what she was talking about, and I feel like a dummy because I was so naive and thought I knew everything about art when really I didn't know that I didn't know, and I thought I did. Such is life. Such is life. Let's go and throw that in a little bit there. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I think it is time for us to have a seat. Oh, man. Have a seat, and we're going to watch this video. Okay? So I'm going to go ahead and take myself off here so you can actually watch it. Alright, let's go ahead and get this thing started. Here we go.
Hello, SCION. My name is Keenan Lafferty, and this is Emma. Emma is a comic that focuses heavily on visual storytelling, with its promotional materials featuring animation, music, and interactive effects. Here's how the business works. The entirety of the story is available online to read for free. However, digital editions will be available for sale that will feature exclusive concept art and short side stories. My project is much more than just a comic. Emma is a community. Every week, I invite readers to join me online as I create the comic live. I interact with the audience, answer their questions about the art industry, and give tutorials on techniques I've learned over the years. Speaking of community, I have some amazing people supporting this comic. Artists, musicians, and some big names from the industry like comic writer Christopher Ryder, concept artist Michael Marino, and comic artist John Boy Myers. My project is my passion, and from the bottom of my heart, I thank you for your time and consideration. I hope to see you in LA at the SCION Motivate convention. Till then, take care.
Alright, so that is it. That is what I'm going to be submitting to the contest. And hopefully it'll get me that much closer to the Emma-mobile. But yeah, I wanted to say thank you guys so much. I want to take the time to say thank you for those of you who posted on Facebook saying you support Emma, and for all the awesome fan art and the I support Emma stuff coming in. That's going to really make a huge difference, because I think they're really big on like projects that have like social media buzz and have a lot of people backing it, or people like believing in it. It's not like, oh yeah, I want to make sticky hands that you like shoot on people's cars, and you know, my mom likes it. Yeah, my dog likes it. You know, it's cool to have actual real people, awesome people such as yourselves that are artists and comic readers and video game players. Basically amazing nerds like myself supporting this. So thank you guys once again. And I hope that you enjoyed that. So, yeah, guys, please, now is time for question catapults. So line your things up and cast them over the castle walls. Now catch them, care for them, and then send them back to you on a crib made of floaty stuff. I don't know. I'll send your babies back to you on the river in a little crib made of grass. Alright. So we'll save that. That looks good. Oh yes, the echo at the beginning was that I had to mute the mic if you guys heard that. Yeah, I had a good friend of mine, Jose. He actually lives in here with me. He's in the room right next to me. He's a musician, and he's actually created some of the music. The music that's going to play at the end of the stream, he actually made that for me for the Emma comic. And he's a very, very talented man. And he has access to some nice recording equipment. So I was like, hey, when I'm doing this recording with my webcam, unfortunately, it kind of sounds like a tin can, you know? So I was like, hey, could I get like a nice recording of my voice for this thing? And he was nice enough to help me out. So alrighty. So question coming in from Helgen Warfare. He asks, how did you learn to use Photoshop? Was it also self-taught? How did you learn to use Photoshop? Was it also self-taught? All right, Helgen. Yes, it was sort of self-taught. I had a friend introduce it to me a long time ago, and he basically showed me how you could scan in. He was taking art lessons from somebody, and he was teaching him about Photoshop. And he would scan in his drawings and then color them, you know, with the program. And I was like, I instantly like, I fell in love. I was like, that is amazing. I was like, I need to learn how to do that. And so as soon as I got my hands on like the earliest cracked edition as I could, this is back when I was like 14 or 15 maybe. As soon as I got my hands on a version that I could work with, I started scanning in my drawings and coloring them with just the mouse. Like I would just move it around and just like color stuff with the mouse. And there were some good things about that and some bad things. I didn't know for the longest time. I was so naive. I thought that these digital artists out there, I thought they created all of their art with the mouse and no pressure sensitivity, no tablet, no anything. And I was like, how do they do that? I'll never be able to do that. But I was so, it's just a classic case of you don't know that you don't know. You know, there's stuff that people are doing, but you don't even know it. And I think it's a very good idea that you don't get, because, okay, the reason why I bring that up is because I feel like sometimes people get discouraged. Sometimes people give up. Sometimes people quit way earlier than they should because they're like, oh, I could never do that, or that's impossible. Like, I don't know how they do that. When really you're not even taking a look at what that person is doing or how they did it, you know? So make sure that not only in art, but in other aspects of your life, you don't cut yourself short just because you feel like, oh, well, that's impossible. I can't do that. That person can do that, but I can't. Okay, so watching you. Okay. Next up, we got... Let's see. G-Wits is asking, what doth thou recommend for improving one's compositional skills? A zealous daily grind of still life? G-Wits. Composition skills. Okay. The best thing that I can recommend that you do is take a look at the biggest things that I always consider when I'm doing pictures is hang on. Biggest things that I consider when I'm doing pictures is the rule of thirds and flow, right? And tangents. Those are three big things I always like to look out for. Let's see if I can go ahead and show you what I'm talking about here. Let me open up this page. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at this picture or this image from the comic, and I'll show you what I'm talking about as far as the composition goes. So you'll notice that a lot of these pictures, I try not to, well, actually, wow, this one might actually be a bad, no, I guess it's not terrible. But in most of these panels, it tends to make a better composition when your character is on the side of something. When it's called the rule of thirds. Like if you were to take the length of this right here and the length of this right here and